Hey guys, this is Chandler Vince at weldermade.com. Thanks for coming. This is our steel project for the month of March. Before we get started, go ahead and look at the bottom right hand corner of the blueprint and double check, make sure that we are referencing the same project. So step one is looking over the blueprint, making sure we understand what parts are what. My favorite view on this blueprint to get a good idea of what parts are what is that top right hand side of the blueprint where we have these bubbles coming off of the isometric view of the blueprint with numbers in the bubbles. That gives each part a number, and it also tells you the quantity of each part. So let's start with part number one. That is our base plate. It is 8 inches by 8 inches with round corners. Number two is a 2.5 inch by 5 inch piece that has a radius cut in the corner of it. Number three is a 5 by 4 rectangle, and then number four is our pipe. It's a 2 3/8 outside diameter pipe, 7 inches tall. And then we have number 5, which is the piece with the Welder Made logo in it, with one corner of it having a radius. Number 6 is the piece with the bevel that has sharp corners on all 4 sides. And then number 7 is this little triangle piece. And then number 8 is the other side of our bevel piece that has 2 radius corners. So now that we understand the blueprint, understand the parts and the quantities, go ahead and make sure that you have the right amount of parts. You guys should have 8 pieces in this project. Make sure you have 8 pieces, and then we'll get to prepping the material and get ready for tack up. So step number 2 is prepping the material. These steel parts are pickled and oiled. We tumble them before they come to you. They're all really clean. Just make sure you go through with the grinder and make sure that all the burrs are gone. I'm going to put a slight root face on the bevel. Okay, we are all clean and we are ready to start step 3 in the tack up process. All right guys, I like to start with any part that is on the same plane. So we're going to look at parts 6 and 8, which is the bevel. I'm going to flip them upside down to tack them. You don't have to, that's just personal preference. I'm going to put a slight opening in my bevel so I can produce a full penetration weld. Okay, now that parts 8 and 6 are tacked together, I'm going to clamp my easy tack to my table, and we are going to start with parts 1 and 3. Pay attention to that side with the radius and make sure that it's facing the right direction for your pipe. Get those fit up nice and tight, corner to corner. Let's tack part 5 and 7 together. That's the piece with the logo and the triangle. You're going to be tacking the triangle on the side of the radius on part 5. Okay, what I like about doing that is that's going to set our angle for that piece, which will help us situate this pipe in place. Okay, now you can take part 7 and 5 and tack them to 3 and 2 by just simply lining up these corners. And you use that pipe, make sure it sits in there nice and tight. It should be a seamless fit up. Okay, now that that whole assembly is put together, let's situate it on our base plate. It looks like we're going to be 1 inch from the edge, and then that back side is going to fit up like a corner joint. So I'm going to go ahead and lay out that 1 inch. Make sure that lines up as a nice corner joint, 1 inch from the edge. Okay, now that our assembly is tacked to our base plate, we can add parts 8 and 6. All right, guys, that is how I would tack up this project. Now let's go into step 4 and start welding this beast. So what to think about when starting to weld these projects is weld sequencing. We want to make sure that we weld certain welds before others, whether it's because the weld is heat sensitive, we want to do it first, or we're trying to cover up stop starts, and we're just trying to get all the welds on this project to tie in nice and neat together the best they can. So in the general rule of thumb, you want to do all your horizontals first and then your verticals, and then if you can make multiple weld joints come together. And so for example, I would want to weld this bottom weld and this outside corner joint, and then weld the fillet weld up and over. That will cover up the start and stops for all 3 of those welds. So I can cover up 3 craters with 1 weld, and that's why weld sequencing is so important. This steel project is designed for any steel process. You can MIG weld this project, you can stick weld this project, you can weld it with flux core, you can even TIG weld it if you want. Today I'm going to be welding with solid wire MIG and just the standard short circuit transfer. Let's get started. Okay, I did a quick root pass burning through on the back side. I'm going to brush it real quick with my hand brush. Now I'm ready for a cap pass. Okay, now that that weld's welded, I want to weld this vertical corner. And then this vertical corner. Okay, now for this outside corner. Challenge yourself. Try to keep that base plate flat on the table and do all these welds in position, all with the uphill progression. I'm going to weld this outside corner and then this flat skewed fillet right in the middle. Okay, now that's welded, I'm going to go ahead and start with this skewed fillet that's tying in parts 2 and 5, as well as that pipe that's number 4. Now that that is welded, I'm going to start with the vertical joint that is bonding part 4 and 7. That's that triangle. We're going to weld this vertical fillet weld, and then we're going to carry it all the way up and around and wrap it around that pipe and make a nice tie-in, covering the stop on this weld, and wrapping that pipe nice and perfect. There's that. I'm going to weld this overhead corner joint that is bonding parts 3 and 1 together. Now we are going to weld this 45-degree vertical fillet weld and wrap it up and around with that flat fillet, tying in all these welds together into one. Okay, now that that's welded, all we have left is finishing that fillet weld around the base, and then we are finished. Okay everyone, that wraps up our steel project for March. We will be launching Chalk Talk videos where it's me and you on a chalkboard learning the weld pull, learning the science behind the weld pull, learning the machines, troubleshooting, what we're looking for on these projects, weld size, weld defects, stuff like that. So the video that you just watched was designed for our Welder Made subscribers that are getting these kits every month. If you want to be a part of this, go to weldermade.com and sign up for a subscription. We'll send you a new project every single month, and you will get right here on another video through a QR code every single month. So that wraps it up for this steel project for this month. When you're done welding these projects, measure your weld size. The material thickness on this project's 1/4 inch. You should be shooting for about 1/4 inch weld size on all your fillets. Your corner joint should be nice and have a nice full radius contour. You shouldn't have any weld defects like porosity, lack of fusion, undercut, and stuff like that. So pay attention and try to learn every bit you can from these projects, because that's why we're doing it. We want you to learn everything you can with this valuable hood time. So with that said, I'll see you next month. Thanks for watching.